Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, you know how sometimes people are like, wow, what's it like covering college football? That must be amazing. It's like, yeah, sometimes it's really amazing. And sometimes you have to go into rewatching Penn State, Iowa, having already looked at the box score and knowing what you're getting into. And it's like, like those war movies where someone like heroically sacrifices themselves for the good of everyone else. That's us turning on the Iowa Penn State game, knowing this is just going to be like 3 hours of football that looks like a dog throwing up and eating its own vomit. And it didn't quite live up to that standard. It was not quite that good, but it was, you don't often get to see a game where it's like, wow, Iowa's offense looks explosive next to this other one, but we got to enjoy that one. So we had that going for us, which is nice.
Yeah, it is nice. We went back and watched from 2 weeks ago, Penn State's last game. They lost at Iowa 25-24 after leading 21-10, mind you, to give you an idea of how things went for this one. And yes, it is a rough watch. I would not recommend it. Tom, you know, the meme or the scene of Nicolas Cage in 8mm where he's just like, they can't, it's like, you can compare it to that, or a scene from Jurassic Park where Laura Dern is digging into some Triceratops, giant pile of Triceratops crap. No offense to anybody in these games, but
they know, they saw it too. Don't worry.
They've seen it more times than we have. Yes, this is a rough watch, and the Penn State offense, and that's why we watched it, because Ohio State obviously playing Penn State this weekend. How does this, what have we seen from Penn State that applies to what we're going to see this weekend? And one thing you have to know, and you guys do realize this, Drew Allar is not there, so the passing game, what little passing game there was, is now almost completely gone. And if it shows up on Saturday, it will be a relative shock. Ethan Gruckmeyer, 15 of 28 for 93 yards, 93 whole yards on 28 attempts, a long completion of 14 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. And this was as fragile and terrified a passing attack as I have seen this year from a team that has legitimate people on it.
Yeah, this is a team that they spent a bunch of money on wide receivers this year. And, I think we need to emphasize once again, Drew Allar out for the season. This is obviously not the quarterback they had planned to be playing. And Iowa's defense is good. Iowa's defense is very sound and all that. But when you throw 28 passes and you average 3.32 yards per attempt, that means you can throw 3 passes, and on average, you're not going to gain a first down before you get to fourth down. And, the way Terry Smith was coaching this game, he has talked about emptying the clip, and they went for it on fourth down a couple times with varying degrees of success, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, the passing game, it was basically non-existent. It was basically Tyler Warren isn't walking through that door, and neither is anyone else. I've watched a bunch of Penn State, heaven help me, this season. Trevor Pena, who is the Penn State or the Syracuse transfer, he's someone who it feels like you see in the offense a little more, because they will sometimes get him involved in the run game. But they targeted him 6 times for 19 yards. So once again, 3 yards per target there for the guy who was the leading receiver on the team. That is not outstanding. And Terry Smith has said a couple times, he used the word demanded, that they throw the ball downfield more. And they have to try something, because it was kind of all check down everything, and they were hitting like 50% of their check downs. And it was just, you've got to do something different, because you saw what happened against an Iowa defense that is a good defense, but not an Ohio State defense. And it didn't work at all. And, we can talk about Kaytron Allen, but they really, God bless their little hearts, they tried to build the entire plane out of Kaytron Allen and basically ran out of Kaytron Allen at the end of the game.
Yeah, and Ethan Gruckmeyer's redshirt freshman was, battled for the backup job this year, was not expected to play as much as he's had to. So, he's going to be limited. And as I said, he completed nearly half of his passes, a little over half of his passes for 93 yards. On the other side of the ball, not that we're going to talk much about Iowa, Mark Gronowski, 10 of 16 for 68 yards. Again, not an exciting offensive, explosive output in this game through the air. So you know what, Tom? Here's the thing that we're not doing this live like this. People can't super chat us because we're not doing it live, but they sure as heck can super thanks us, and that is an option as you're watching, because what my eyes have seen, no man should have to go through, and we both went through that. So I'm not begging here or anything. I'm just saying I am owed something.
Yeah, Iowa had 68 yards passing. Penn State had 93 yards passing. I think there have been quarters where Julian Sayin has thrown for more yards than there were for both teams in 60 minutes of this game. And, Iowa's offense was, do we even want to go into Iowa's offense? I'm not emotionally ready to talk about Iowa's offense yet. We'll get to that later. I do want to talk about Kaytron Allen. I want to, let's have a dramatic swing in emotion here to, man, that guy is good. Kaytron Allen, 28 carries, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. Do you know how hard it is to average 5.2 yards per carry against a good Iowa defense with absolutely no threat of the run game or the pass game whatsoever? And he just keeps on chugging. 28 carries, 145 yards. Also had 3 catches for 13 yards. Or sorry, 3 catches for 7 yards with 13 yards after the catch. If that tells you anything about how he was used in the passing game, but 31 touches for him. At the end of the game, I think there were some snaps on that last drive. I didn't go back and look, but I think there were some snaps on that last drive where he wasn't out there because he was literally just like completely out of gas. But that was it. This was a rock, paper, scissors contest where neither of the contestants were aware that you could throw scissors or paper. So it was just rock, 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 rock over and over and over again. And Kaytron Allen will do something that will make Ohio State fans extremely annoyed. Like, he's probably worth 7 points in and of himself for Penn State on Saturday against the Buckeyes. He is like genuinely one of the best players in the Big Ten. But it's just, this is a little like when Antoine Randall was on the Indiana offense in the late 90s. And it was like, man, this one guy is amazing. Who else does he have? Man, this one guy is amazing. And that's just kind of what Kaytron Allen was on Saturday, or last Saturday against Iowa.
I will say shout out to LeVron Williams, Indiana running back with Antoine Randall for a year or so there. He was good, but yeah, he did not have much help. Kaytron Allen over the years against Ohio State has not been great. Now 12 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown as a true freshman. And then in 2023, 9 for 26. And then last year, 12 for 27. So they've bundled him up pretty good. And it's because there's not a lot of threat from the Penn State passing game. So it's like, well, let's just make sure that Kaytron Allen doesn't beat us, and we'll let Drew Allar do what he can. And now there's no Drew Allar. So just make sure Kaytron Allen doesn't beat you. And then maybe Nick Singleton can do something, or one of the 4 double passes that Andy Kotelnicki will call on Saturday will hit, or all of these crazy motions, or the 5 shovel passes that he called on Saturday.
I love the anger in your voice at that. I love it.
It's just infuriating watching the offense. And I don't even know how much of a shot Ethan Gruckmeyer has with this offense, because Drew Allar, we say what we want about him, but like, how much was it him? Was it the offense? I've never been convinced he's all that. But then Andy Kotelnicki in this offense has been terrible, in my opinion. And it's his offense. So I can't say him in this offense. It's his offense. And there's just not much going on. And it's, again, I may have said this before. It's the Indiana Jones thing where, the guy's like facing off with the Indiana Jones with all of the sword play, and then Indiana Jones just pulls out his gun and shoots him. Like, Andy Kotelnicki is this fancy sword play, and it's just like, yeah, but we're playing football here. Boom, and you're done. And so I get kind of annoyed at all of this. And of course, yes, I hate the shovel pass, so that's always going to be there. But I don't know how many people know this, Tom. Penn State actually plays 2 quarterbacks. They have their throwing quarterback, Ethan Gruckmeyer, and they have their running quarterback in Jackson Smolik, and he is a running quarterback, Tom, very much like Devin Brown was Ohio State's running quarterback with Kyle McCord. And that should tell you all you need to know about. Should we be concerned about him? No, not really. I don't know like why he's certainly the more mobile guy. They ran some triple options and things of that nature, and a couple of those worked. But overall, again, unless they're throwing the ball, there's no reason they came out in the second half and Ethan Gruckmeyer threw deep right away, and then one more time, and then that was it. If they're not going to even test things deep, this feels like another shutout, or without something broken, this feels like a shutout to me.
Yeah, I think they very clearly are going to test something deep. I mean, Terry Smith has talked very openly for multiple press conferences across 2 weeks about the fact that they are going to throw deep more. And, you wonder, why would a coach say that? James Franklin called him the ultimate truth teller during the summer. And he, during his press conference on Monday, talked about the fact that he does kind of view himself that way. And he's just going to sort of tell you what he thinks. And so you'll sometimes hear him talking in press conferences. Like James Franklin never gave medical updates in press conference, ever. And you're getting honest medical updates from Terry Smith. So it's a very different day at Penn State. I do expect him to throw the ball downfield. There is some question as to whether Jackson Smolik, who is the running quarterback, is going to play on Saturday. He was hurt. And on Monday, Terry Smith said there was no update on him. Beckham Kritza, who is a true freshman quarterback, he would be the backup if Jackson Smolik isn't able to go. It's this is one of the things where, this is going to get worse before it gets better, probably. And I don't know if Jackson Smolik played as much as he did against Iowa, just because he's an Iowa native. So that might have been a little bit of they're kind of throwing stuff against the wall right now to see what sticks, because they played the Iowa native quarterback a bunch against Iowa, and now he's hurt. They're trying to do more with Frankelmeyer downfield. They've started, they threw some new freshman wide receivers in there. I think James Franklin probably was a play the veterans kind of guy. And so now there are two true freshmen who started playing against Kobe Howard, number 3, had his first catch of the season, tweeted after the game, got stuck in traffic. I'm here now. Thought that was an interesting tweet. But he and Tysier Denmark, who Ohio State fans may remember from recruiting, we watched Tysier Denmark look pretty darn impressive at a 7-on-7 camp at one point. It's going to be different guys. It feels like there are certain, the Penn State wide receivers, it's kind of been an ongoing issue for a couple of years. Devontae Ross, who's the transfer from Troy, he's looked okay at times. Trevor Pena, the transfer from Syracuse, has looked okay at times. Kyron Hudson, who is a transfer from USC, has just kind of, I heard someone say, yeah, it's basically been what he was at USC. It was like, oh, well, he wasn't very good at USC. So I think they are at the point where you're just kind of throwing it all at the wall and seeing what sticks, because at this point, if you're a freshman and you're not playing, what incentive do you have to stick around? Maybe you see, hey, I'm going to have a bigger role next year for this team, whoever the head coach is. And so, I think that very much goes with Terry Smith's empty the clip idea, where they're going to be going for it on fourth down. You're going to see just a bunch of crazy crap. And as Tony has said, Andy Kotelnicki's offense, gimmicky is some kind of something of an understatement. He came to Penn State from Kansas, where you do just have to we're just going to do some crazy crap and see what happens. You don't have to do that, or you shouldn't have to do that at Penn State. You should be able to just line up and beat people, but that is not his approach. That's not who he is. The guy who just wears the hat with the propeller on it, basically. That's him and his offense. And, sometimes it works and it's like, wow, this guy's a genius. And a lot of times it's like, well, that was stupid. Anyway, Tony, that's a transition to his 4th-and-1 play call in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had been talking a while. I figured I'd tee you up, but okay, that's fine. 4th-and-1, and this once again goes back to empty the clip. 4th-and-1 in Penn State's own territory. They're protecting a lead at this point. I think it might have been 21-19 or something like that. And it's 4th-and-1. And so do you just line up and give it to Kaytron Allen, the running back, who has just been bowling people all over again? No, you won't get any credit for being clever if you do that. So you have Ethan Gruckmeyer standing in shotgun and turned to the sideline and pointed his helmet like his helmet radio is not working. as you motion the tight end in, and the tight end takes the snap and then immediately runs into a brick wall and gets stopped for no gain. And that was kind of a great synopsis of sometimes Andy Kotelnicki's offense looks brilliant, but a lot of times it looked like that.
Well, and the reason I let you go, because that was actually on the second page of my notes. And the fact that I have 2 pages of notes again, super thanks.
You're welcome, everyone.
I shouldn't be wasting 2 pages of paper on this. Fortunately, it's front to back, so it's just really technically 1. But these Michigan State notebooks from like 6 years ago from East Lansing, they're running out. Okay, I don't know that I'm ever going to get any more, and these are very valuable things.
That was the game where Drew Chrisman was the player that they interviewed on the field after the game, because he was the punter for Ohio State, and he just pinned Michigan State inside the 5 like 6 times. So spiritually, this is a great notebook for you to be writing about this game in.
I don't steal much from other stadiums. Again, I've got a Rutgers hat that ended up in my car.
Put your Rutgers hat on, and when you say that, sir.
And then also the steno pads from Michigan State. But again, they've not had them for a while. We're trying to go to a paperless society. Is it terrible? Yes. My final note is that, and not that we're done. Like the final note that I wrote about the Penn State offense. Penn State is cute Iowa, and not in a good way. Like they're, Andy Kotelnicki's doing all of these things, as I said, and what's the result? Well, 3 yards per pass attempt. And you look at even the targets, nobody that was targeted more than once even averaged 6 yards, more than 6 yards a target. Like this is not a viable offense passing game or anything. And you get a lot of feeling like you said, they're throwing stuff against, well, they know they can't do anything, and it has to just be a completely helpless feeling for them. I'm looking to see if there's anything else we need to touch on with the offense before we, just because like even Grunkemeyer threw an interception on like a 4-yard slant to a tight end, threw it 100 miles per hour. Like you don't need to throw the ball that hard. Like he is still learning on the job. I genuinely feel bad about for him, for what Ohio State could do on Saturday. And you just hope that he can bounce back from that. He's a Central Ohio guy, probably grew up an Ohio State fan. And so you don't want to lose those Ohio boys. You don't want to defeat them in such ways, but there's so little help around any of those guys offensively.
Yeah. And before I get to that, I just want to say, Penn State is not cute Iowa. Penn State is Iowa, where if you ask, are they cute Iowa? Someone starts talking about their personality. That's what they are. That's what this Penn State team is this year. Yeah. I mean, Ethan Grunkemeyer he's out on the field before he's ready to be out on the field, really. Like, I don't think he threw a pass last year. So this was not someone like Julian Sayin, where he was the third stringer and they brought him out there and he played in a bunch of games and got a little bit of action and probably took a bunch of snaps during practice and all that kind of stuff. Grunkemeyer was really that's not what his freshman year was like. And he played some, but Penn State kind of screwed around in some of those non-conference games, which, boy, that has a different look to it now, doesn't it? Because they played 3 terrible teams, and it took longer than expected for them to put those teams away. So he didn't get as many reps during the non-conference portion of the season as you'd probably expect. So now he's kind of getting thrown in there with this offense that's a little gimmicky. And, for years it was Penn State doesn't have any wide receivers. And then they put new wide receivers at Drew Allar, and the passing game still stunk. So it was like, well, maybe it's Drew Allar. And then they wrote Drew Allar, and the passing game still stinks. And it's like, well, maybe it's Andy Kotelnicki. I don't know. Like, something smells in here. I don't know what it is, but it's not good. And so, you put Ethan Grunkemeyer in there, who's probably not ready to be starting truly yet. And it's like, okay, well, fix this issue that no one else has been able to fix for multiple seasons. Like, that's really not a fair spot to be putting him in. As you said, he is a Lewis Center, Ohio native, went to Olentangy High School just north of Columbus. He's another guy we saw at those camps and the 7-on-7 camps and all that kind of stuff. Great kid. Seems like he's probably going to have a bright future. He's just getting thrown into a bad spot right now. And, you go back to, Troy Smith, when Troy Smith got it thrown into games early in his career, you looked at him and it was like, wow, this guy's never going to be anything. And then, he turned into something standing in New York, getting handed a heavy trophy at one point. So, I'm not saying Ethan Grunkemeyer is going to win the Heisman, but you get thrown out there before you're truly ready. sometimes it can look like a little bit of a mess. And so, Braxton Miller's another example. Got thrown out there as a true freshman. It was just like, this kid is not ready. He's going to be something good at some point. He is not ready. And that, Braxton Miller didn't have much of a supporting cast either in 2011. So maybe that's a better 2004 Ohio State offense, 2011 Ohio State offense. These are the comps you want for your team that entered the season as a national championship contender.
It sure is. Grunkmeyer, 1 of 2 passing last year, and that was the playoff game against SMU. One of those went for an interception. And then really this year, he played 7 of 9 in the season opener against Nevada. And then, like you said, because the games were all, relatively close, he was only 1 of 2 against Villanova. And that's the only time he's thrown until the Iowa game.
Mm-hmm.
So this was his first real action. And you could tell because the entire field was not open to him. They were trying to limit where he could see, where you're going. This was not a guy that's like, okay, drop back and just survey and, progress. It's like, no, progress past 2 and then take off if you can, because he's not there yet. And they weren't expecting him to be there yet, but now he's got to get as far as he can immediately. And it's a good thing he's had a week off to prepare. I don't know how much he's going to grow. I can't even say he'll be better because the Ohio State defense is going to be better than Iowa's defense, presumably. So it might look worse, but he'll be more prepared than he was. And
well, he's had 3 weeks now taking the reps with the ones as opposed to 1 week. Percentage wise, that's a really big deal. That's this was a very, very well timed off week for them where you could get healthy, you could rest Kaytron Allen's legs a little bit. You could get Ethan Grunkmeyer a little more up to speed with the offense and some of the stuff they're going to be asking him to doing. But you're right. That's exactly what Terry Smith said in his press conference on Monday is you've got to throw the ball downfield, but you've also got to keep it relatively simple. It's got to kind of going to be 1 or 2 reads and that's it. And just, either take off or throw the ball away. They had some weird ball security stuff with their quarterbacks where there were back-to-back plays where 2 different quarterbacks fumbled on back-to-back plays. One of them was running and hit. One of them was just a bad exchange with the center. But there's just a lot of that just little stuff that they have to get cleaned up. And you would assume that that's probably been a lot of the little stuff has been probably the focus of some of these off-week practices for them. But I don't know that 2 weeks is enough time to get it all straightened out.
One last thing before we move to defense. Iowa did not need to blitz, but when they did, it was effective, and it almost felt it was unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, and on the biggest downs where they needed to stop, they'd blitz, and it would be effective. You wonder what Ohio State's going to do in that same boat, or just it's one of those things where you can be as blitz happy as you want. I don't think it's going to cost you too much, or you can just sit in coverage, and I don't think it's going to cost you too much.
Right. I would expect a lot of run blitzing maybe if they're going to do that because that's your primary concern is stopping Kaytron Allen. This is very much you go in this with job 1 is stop Kaytron Allen. Job 2 is make sure you stop Kaytron Allen also in the passing game. And then if anyone else beats you, kind of shrug your shoulders and go, all right, well, let's see you do it again. That's kind of the approach that I would guess that they're going to take. I think they could be very aggressive. This is a Penn State team that I could see turning the ball over quite a bit because Matt Patricia has been confusing veteran quarterbacks quite a bit this season. So a guy who's making his second career start, that could be a real challenge. And I think they're going to be looking for turnovers because this is not a team that is a real big play threat team on the whole, Penn State, and they haven't really been all season. So if you're Ohio State, I think job 1 is just put the game away early. Like don't make this a game where it's 10-7 at halftime and Penn State is, feeling good about themselves. Just make them go squish in the first quarter. Make it 14-0 after 1. Make it 24-3 at halftime where don't give them reason to believe. Like this is a team that they're playing hard. Like for a team that had 3 straight losses and lost their head coach and was playing on the road in one of the most hostile environments in the Big Ten, like stand up and applaud Terry Smith for having that team ready against Iowa. They are not the most talented team right now, but he had them playing hard on the whole game. But if you can pull away, like it will not be that difficult to break their spirit, I would guess, because this is an Ohio State team that they have not beaten since 2016. This is the hurdle that James Franklin couldn't get over. So, if you have a chance to make them go, here it goes again, here we go again, that I think will probably turn what could be a close game into a not at all close game. And I would guess that Ohio State will probably be aggressive on defense to try to make that happen.
And the last thing I'll say is Grunkemeyer was feeling the pressure before it got there, which again, understandable. The weeks of practice will help him keep that from happening. Defensively, Iowa, which cannot throw the ball and famously could not throw the ball even against Villanova, ran the ball 33 times for 245 yards. Now, Mark Gronowski had a 67-yarder and another 30-yarder. So that's a big chunk of that. However, Mark Gronowski had a 67-yarder and then a 30-yarder. Shouldn't be happening. He's mobile-ish. He's not, he's not Drew Tate. Moulton, their running back, 99 yards rushing on 17 carries, 5.8 yards per carry with a long of 21 yards. Iowa had a patient running attack, and the running back kept his eyes up and would just kind of dip and dodge and duck and dive and dodge and pick up good yardage, stay on track, keep the offense moved well enough to keep the quarterback from having to do too much on third down, because as we know, they are not capable on third downs if they're asked to throw it. That's just, basically a bridge too far for the most part. But they stayed on schedule with the running game, and does that mean anything for Ohio State?
I guess it means that if Ohio State can run the ball, it could be a real long afternoon for Penn State. Penn State, Iowa's running back ran for 5.2 yards per carry, and did not have a long run to skew that. It was just kind of consistently 4 to 6 to 7 yards on almost every carry, it felt like. And it was, they had missed tackles, sure, but there was just a bunch of bad run fits, and it was just kind of a little bit of a mess. But then they would just have these absolutely cataclysmic busts. I mean, Ohio State fans will remember the 2022 Ohio State defense, Jim Knowles' first year at Ohio State, and it was very much the same thing with Iowa in this game. There were 3 different times where Mark Gronowski, the quarterback, who, if you're trying to picture him, the nickname, the last name Gronowski suggests familiarity with kielbasa and pierogies. And yeah, you've got it. There you go. So this is not like Michael Vick we're talking about here. And he had 3 different runs where one was 67 yards, one was, I think, 49 yards. And then he had one that was like the Will Howard run to seal the Ohio State Penn State game at Happy Valley last year, where it was, he took I don't remember if it was a bootleg or if it was a read or something, but kept it, went off the left end, and probably could still be running if, he just decided, he got enough, he got the first down, he slid, and they ran out the clock. But that's, that if that's what you're getting from a guy with the last name Gronowski, I have grim news about what Ohio State has on their team and the relative levels of athleticism we're talking about. So I'm expecting Jim Knowles to probably just be incredibly aggressive, because I don't think getting hit in the face with a running game for 5 yards a carry is going to be real fun. So I think he's going to have to just sell out and try and I think they make Ohio State try and beat him with the pass. You've seen Iowa just kind of bludgeon you without being able to even threaten the pass. So I assume they're going to have to try and make Ohio State one-dimensional and hope that their corners can win one-on-one battles, or you play 3 deep across the back and just hope you can keep everything in front of you, I guess.
Well, and I'm looking, I don't think they really necessarily had any big pass plays against the Nittany Lions, but again.
Oh, Iowa didn't? Iowa? Who's their coach? Is it Don Coryell? Am I remembering that correctly?
But again, they had 6 rush plays of 10 yards or more. And we mentioned that Gronowski, 67-yarder, 38-yarder. He also had a 14-yarder. Kamari Moulton, the running back who went for 90 or went for 100 and some, had a 21-yarder, 13 and 11. It's just consistent. And, picking and choosing where he went. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what Penn State does, realizing like, do we just need to test and see what Julian Saint can handle in terms of the blitzing and the chaos and things of that nature? Because if you're just going to drop back and play coverage and try, have deny Dennis Sutton, try to get home, even though sometimes he's dropping back as a linebacker, not rushing the passer at all. It feels like at this point, you know what? Let's just go crazy. You said earlier, throw everything against the wall offensively. You might want to do that same thing defensively because you need to create some plays. You need to steal some possessions. Could things get out of hand? Yes. Could things get out of hand if you don't? Yes. Like, how do you want to go down? Do you want to go down fighting, or do you want to go down just like grabbing and dragging the ball carrier? And we'll see what they choose. I'm not sure they're going to be super aggressive. I don't know what to think yet about this, just because of the if players are starting to give up, and I'm not saying they are because it doesn't look like they are. Like, don't the players want to be aggressive? I'd say, isn't that a way to keep them engaged as well? I'd be like, hey, like Ryan Day for Georgia, we're going to swing away. Like, so maybe that's one of those things where you can keep guys engaged by saying, we're going to be as aggressive as heck. We're going to swing. We're going to attack. We're going to take. Jim Knowles is the guy that said, I want to play offense on defense. So I guess we'll see it maybe.
Yeah, I would assume you're looking for turnovers on defense. You're going to be willing to give up some big plays if that allows you to make some big plays on defense. And, I think as we said, they're going to take some shots downfield in the passing game. They've been pretty open about that. And then this is the kind of game. Did you see, I think Dan Lanning, I think it was Oregon, had an onside kick on the opening kickoff last week. Like, something like that would not surprise me in this game. And, is it the onside? Maybe it's the second half and it's the opening kickoff of the second half or whatever. But that feels like that's something you can sell to the team all week to get them excited, because you don't want this to feel like you're walking the green mile as you're getting on that airplane. I think they can probably take an airplane just from the State College Airport. So that's already great news for Penn State. They don't have to bus to Harrisburg this time. But, you don't want this to feel like, oh, well, we know how this is going to go. You want to be able to sell, look, we are going to absolutely do everything. We are going to swing like hell. And you hope you land the proverbial puncher's chance. You hope you throw your uppercut as hard as you can, and you hope you land it. And, you run a fake punt, you run an onside kick, Lord knows they'll have plenty of gimmicky offensive plays and maybe one of those hits. You're trying to force you're going cover zero on defense to try and get pressure, to try and whatever it is, you're trying to make something happen. And they went for it a bunch on fourth down against Iowa. I mean, this is all the stuff that this is going to go one of two ways. If they do this, either it really works and you've got yourself a real close football game in the fourth quarter, or it really doesn't and the score gets out of hand right away. I mean, that's both of those are possibilities. But I think Penn State coming in with a real meek game plan of, well, we're going to run the clock down as much as we possibly can on every snap, and we're going to we're going to try and run the ball between the tackles for exactly 3.5 yards per carry to pick up a first down each time. That's not going to work. So I think, swing like hell and see if you hit someone.
And beware of the gimmick plays. I'm sure they will be practicing against those and aware of those, because Penn State's going to have to do whatever they can to move the ball. And that's, like I said, double passes. Jackson Smolik, we don't know if he's going to play. He has not thrown a pass this year. Whatever it takes, they're going to try to do. It's like, boy, Tom, it's like Rutgers. And I'm sure Penn State fans are like, well, how dare you? And it's like, well, one last thing. How about advice for Ryan Day? My suggestion, and just hear me out, listen, please.
Is this going to involve a 66-yard field goal? Because I feel like it's going to involve a 66-yard field goal. But go on.
It is. At the end of the half, my suggestion, don't attempt a 66-yard field goal. And now Kirk Ferentz did that, and it was blocked and returned for a touchdown, gave Penn State life. And anytime you can do what John L. Smith does, you should not do what John L. Smith does. And so, yes, do not attempt. And to Kirk Ferentz's credit, he admitted, yeah, probably shouldn't have tried the 66-yard field goal. That's my fault. Yeah, no duh.
Yeah, that was one where like you can see those. It was like those, like seconds before disaster, memes on social media or whatever. It's just like you can see the shark looming right up behind the person. It's like, oh no, this is going to end poorly. And yeah, you're a 66-yard field goal. A kick six is like the second most likely scenario here, and the blocked field goal might have been the first most likely. And this was Penn State getting its once a decade like perfect bounce on a blocked field goal. They used it up with the Grant Haley one in 2016 against Ohio State, and this is one where it got spiked back so far back behind the kicker that a guy just picked it up right on it was like the easiest walk-in blocked field goal touchdown. Look for that. What the heck? Give it a shot. If you try and block a field goal, try and block a punt. Like that's something that just throw it on the pile. What is it going to hurt? One thing I did want to touch on real quickly. One of the issues that Penn State's having is with the linebacker position. And, this is linebacker U. So, of course, they've got great linebackers. Offer not valid in the year of our Lord 2025. They were kind of thin at linebacker already. Then they lost Tony Rojas, who was a pretty good linebacker, to injury. And now they have real big depth issues. Dom DeLuca has a former walk-on. He wears number 0. He is in there. He is someone who you don't have to look very far on the internet to find a Penn State fan saying something very nice about him and his play. Penn State is 70th in the nation right now in yards per carry allowed. They're 8th in the nation in yards per attempt against the pass. So, that's per attempt. That's not just, they played Iowa, so they only threw for 60 yards. That's yards per attempt. So, Iowa threw for about 4 yards per attempt. So that probably also helped there, but they've been pretty good against the pass all year. So that's why I think they probably just throw everything they've got at the run game and just see if they can hold up against the pass.
And we should remind people, this Penn State team, the unanimous Big Ten favorites from all of your media friends and family and pundits and all of that. So unanimous Big Ten preseason favorite, Penn State. And now they're 20.5 point underdog at Ohio State. Last thing for me on that kickoff return, blocked field goal touchdown. To tell you how stupid of a decision this was, that was only a 35-yard touchdown return. That's how far back. And it was, and the kick does get blocked backwards, but it's like it was only a 35-yard return. Like, yeah, there's just dumb, and Kirk Ferentz has learned his lesson and will never do anything foolish again, I'm sure. But I think that's also like Penn State does not scare us. That's one of those decisions.
Well, it was Kirk Ferentz really likes kicking the football. That was my big takeaway. Like, really likes kicking the football. He, that was one where he kicked it, and it was, if it had just been a regular old missed field goal, which would have been probably, that's somewhere in the top 3 of most likely outcomes there, ahead of made field goal. If he misses it, then Penn State has a chance to either just immediately right from there line up and try and kick a long field goal or throw one into the end zone. And it was, 8 seconds before halftime, 6 seconds before halftime, whatever it was. Yeah, that was just not understanding risk reward at all. And for someone who is normally as risk averse as Kirk Ferentz, that was like, maybe I'll take a chance. Maybe I'll do something risky. Maybe old Kirk is going to be a little bold. Oh, learned my lesson. Won't be doing that again. Punting from the 4th and 1 in plus territory. Can't wait to do that again.
This is what I get for putting salt in my soup. Living dangerously. And this Drew Stevens, I believe, is the kicker's name, missed a 46-yarder before that. And I think they said his career long was like 50, 52 or 54. It's like, 66 is only like a yard longer than that, right? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's Iowa. Maybe Ohio State. We'll see Iowa in the playoffs. I don't know. Tom, anything else before we go?
No, we've talked about 3 times longer about this game than I was hoping to. So let's please wrap this up.
All right. So we will If you've not yet done so, and I know you already have, a thumbs up on the video is always appreciated.
We've really earned it for you people.
And again, I'm not going to say once again that you need to super thanks us for this show. I've already said enough. And if you don't believe me, then there's no third time that can convince you. But we've seen some things. So we're going to go now. It's been a rough weekend. It's time to get back to good things. And we watched Michigan State, watched Penn State, Iowa. Tom, I need some happiness in my life. I need to see something quality. I don't know.
We're going to do a rewatch of the Puppy Bowl from this year. That's our next show. We're just, oh man, I need to watch some fluffy puppies running around because this is the bad place watching these football games this week.
We could do a rewatch of the Puppy Bowl. So there you go. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.